Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Books and Bytes. Today we're doing a deep dive into Victor Davis Hanson's truly insightful work, The Western Way of War, Infantry Battle in Classical Greece.
A really fascinating book. Hanson's core idea, it's quite provocative, isn't it?
It absolutely is. He argues that the Greeks, the classical Greeks, didn't just invent democracy, but something else deeply connected to it.
Right, the decisive infantry battle.
Exactly. And our mission today is to really unpack that central idea.
Yeah, because Hanson makes a crucial distinction. This wasn't, scattered skirmishes or some kind of ritual conflict. It was terrifyingly ferocious, brief, incredibly destructive, a head-on clash.
Between armed citizens, too,
Yeah.
all ages.
And that's key. Hanson connects this horrific enterprise directly to the spirit of democracy, that same drive for an unequivocal, instant resolution to a dispute.
It's a powerful connection. And he builds his case using such a wide range of sources, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Not just the usual historical accounts. He pulls in poetry,
Right.
drama.
Even vase paintings, looking for clues everywhere.
Exactly. It gives you this ground-level perspective, what it was really like for the infantryman on the battlefield.
So today we'll get into, well, everything. The heavy armor, the brutal push of the phalanx.
The physical toll, the psychological stress.
Yeah.
It's intense.
And the social dynamics behind it all. How this ancient way of fighting really shaped Western culture, maybe with some unexpected lessons for us, too.
Well, Hanson's book, it fundamentally shifts how we look at Greek warfare.
How so? What was the traditional view?
Traditionally, historians often focused on agricultural devastation. The idea that armies marched out mainly to destroy crops or protect their own.
That seems logical on the surface.
It does, but Hanson, and this is where his own background comes in, he actually farmed. He argues this whole idea is a bit of a paradox.
Based on his own experience.
Yeah. He found destroying mature trees, vines, it's incredibly difficult work without modern tools. And often, the long-term economic impact wasn't as devastating as you'd think. He literally tried it.
Wow. So, okay, if it wasn't primarily about starving the enemy out slowly,
Right.
what was the trigger for these battles?
That's the core question he tackles. He argues it wasn't the economic damage itself, but the mere sight of enemy soldiers ravaging your land.
The violation.
Exactly. A profound violation of privacy, of honor, of pride. It was a provocation that demanded an immediate response.
Not negotiation, not a siege, but a battle.
A decisive infantry battle, out on the open plains. Quick, brutal resolution. That, Hanson says, was the true purpose. Crush their will in an afternoon.
And this is what he calls the Western way of war.
Precisely. This desire, almost an obsession, for a single, magnificent collision of infantry. Brutal killing with edged weapons between free men.
It sounds terrifying.
Right.
And apparently it was baffling to their enemies.
Completely. He mentions the Persian commander Mardonios, who just couldn't understand it, saw it as senseless. Why seek out flat ground for mutual slaughter instead of, using terrain or trickery?
A very different mindset, this direct frontal assault. Immediate application of power.
And it stands in stark contrast to, say, modern guerrilla warfare, where avoiding that direct clash is the whole point. Western armies have often struggled with that.
Yet there's this persistent, almost illogical feeling, isn't there? That the direct fight where you stay your ground is somehow more fair, noble.
It is. It's seen as a true test of character. You hear echoes of it from figures like the Spartan general Brasidas.
Didn't he criticize enemies who made noise but wouldn't charge head on?
Exactly. He saw it as a lack of true courage. And Alexander the Great refusing night attacks, wanting to win openly by daylight.
Preferring to regret his good fortune rather than be ashamed of his victory. Powerful stuff.
It really is. And this cultural preference brings us back to Hanson's specific approach. He's not focused on the grand strategy, the abstract tactics, the numbers.
He's zooming in.
Right down to the individual hoplite. What was it like inside the phalanx? The atmosphere, the environment. He wants to understand it from the inside out.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's start with the soldier himself, the hoplite, and his equipment. Because the gear seems absolutely central to this whole system.
It absolutely is. It's not just protection. It dictates the fighting style. It all starts with the shield, the hoplon.
Which is where the name hoplite comes from.
Right. A heavy, round, wooden shield, about 3 feet across. But the revolutionary part was its shape. Concave.
Allowing the soldier to rest the top edge on his shoulder.
Exactly, which helped immensely in that shoving match, the push. But crucially, it also protected the man to his left, his exposed right side.
Ah, so it builds in interdependence. You have to rely on the guy next to you.
Your life literally depends on him holding his position. It forces cohesion.
But this bronze panoply, the full set of armor, it looked impressive, must have given them confidence,
Yeah.
but it had serious downsides.
Oh, huge downsides. It was incredibly heavy, uncomfortable, unbearably hot under the Greek sun.
I can only imagine.
And it restricted movement significantly, which is why over time you see a trend towards lightening the load, even discarding some pieces.
So soldiers didn't always wear the full kit.
We see signs they avoided it, delaying arming until the last second, having servants carry the gear.
And abandoning it in retreat, which was shameful.
Deeply shameful. It shows the desperation. Take the Corinthian helmet, for example. Iconic look, but terrible visibility and hearing. Almost completely cut off.
That sounds isolating. Claustrophobic, even.
It must have been. Creates a sense of isolation, but also reinforces that need to stick close to your comrades. And even with the helmet, a strong blow could still be fatal. Those cool crests maybe made you a target.
And the rest. The greaves, the breastplate.
Greaves for the shins, hard to adjust if they came loose. The bell corselet, the breastplate, that was maybe half the weight of the whole panoply. Immense discomfort, heat exhaustion, dehydration. Major problems.
Even with all that metal, they weren't invulnerable. Missiles could still find gaps.
Exactly. And ironically, Hanson notes getting hit by arrows or stones often just made them angrier, more determined to close the distance and crash into the enemy line.
Okay, so the defense is heavy, restrictive, but encourages cohesion. What about offense? The spear.
The primary weapon, yeah.
Yeah.
The dory, usually 6 to 8 feet long, held underhand for the charge.
To get momentum.
Right. Then switched to overhand for stabbing in the crush. And it had that butt spike, the sword.
A second weapon, almost. And a counterbalance?
Both, yes. But the key thing is, these spears often shattered on impact. They weren't indestructible.
So what happened then?
Then you're down to your sword, the xiphos.
Yeah.
Shorter, less effective in the initial clash, but necessary for the close-in fighting. And inside that packed phalanx, swinging even a spear was difficult. Accidents must have happened.
So the quick breaking of spears just pushed things towards even closer, nastier fighting.
Pretty much. It forces the issue.
So who were these hoplites carrying all this gear?
They were primarily citizen farmers, ordinary guys, basically, liable for military service from, say, 18 up to around 60.
60. Still fighting in heavy armor.
Astonishing, isn't it? And battles were frequent. Hanson suggests maybe 2 out of every 3 years. The chance of seeing action, getting wounded or killed, it was high.
Unlike modern armies, you had a lot of older men in the ranks.
A significant portion, yeah. Men over 30, shoulder to shoulder with teenagers, carrying the same gear, expected to hold the line just the same.
Like Socrates. Wasn't he fighting in his 40s?
He was, famously so. These veterans provided stability, experience. In the phalanx, raw speed wasn't the main thing. It was dogged determination, staying power.
Like that story of the crippled Spartan, Androclitus.
Right. Who argued his inability to run away made him more valuable. No need of running away, but rather to stay put. It captures the ethos.
This all-inclusive nature, everyone participating, must have created incredible morale.
Unsurpassed, Hanson argues. It really was their city, their freedom they were fighting for directly.
Which leads to the psychology. The moments before the clash, that must have been terrifying.
Absolutely. The dread of massed attack, Hanson calls it. It was universal. Imagine seeing the enemy phalanx approaching. Hundreds, thousands of men. Shining bronze, maybe the scary red tunics of the Spartans.
And the sound. The Spartan pipes.
And that slow, ominous advance signaled by pipes. Pure psychological warfare, designed to instill terror.
And it worked. Did it manifest physically?
Apparently so. Reports of literal shuddering or shaking through the ranks, like a collective tremor of fear.
And less dignified reactions, too.
Yes. Involuntary defecation. It seems crude, but it shows the sheer terror. It even became a joke in Aristophanes' comedies, believe it or not.
Wow. That pre-battle fear really highlights the Greek view of courage, doesn't it? Facing that terror head-on.
Exactly. They often dismissed enemies who relied on noise or skirmishing as lacking true courage because they wouldn't stand and fight face-to-face. If you couldn't face that wall of bronze and fear, you weren't considered brave in the same way.
So leadership must have been critical in managing that fear.
Absolutely vital.
Yeah.
And Greek generals led from the front, not like some modern commanders miles behind the lines.
Like Leonidas at Thermopylae.
The ultimate example. They shared the risk, the experience. They were hoplites themselves. That fostered incredible loyalty.
But it also meant
an incredibly high casualty rate for commanders. They were often the first targets right at the point of impact.
and the bonds within the phalanx. You mentioned the equipment forcing cohesion.
Right. The shield linking men together, but also how they deployed, often by tribe or kinship groups.
So you're fighting next to your brothers, cousins, neighbors, people you've known your whole life.
Exactly. Intense peer pressure, a powerful collective will to protect each other. You couldn't let your family down.
Are there specific examples of this camaraderie?
Hanson mentions things like Themistocles apparently using fighting cocks to inspire his men before a battle, showing their spirit, and, of course, the Theban sacred band.
The elite unit of male lovers.
Yes, who fought incredibly bravely, supposedly undefeated until they were completely wiped out. That bond was clearly powerful.
Okay, another factor.
Yeah.
What about alcohol? Was liquid courage involved?
Well, there's little evidence of, official rum rations, in later armies, but drinking was common in Greek society.
Homer's heroes drink.
To dull trauma, yeah. And we know alcohol reduces, in addition, self-preservation instincts.
So it's plausible they drank before battle.
Very plausible. There are accounts suggesting it. Dionysius giving out rations before a charge. Spartans supposedly being stirred up by wine at Leuctra. Hanson thinks it's likely many hoplites went into battle, at least almost drunk.
Enough to dull the fear and make them more willing to charge.
Probably. Enough to lower that final barrier of hesitation.
Okay, so they're geared up, maybe slightly drunk, terrified but determined, standing shoulder to shoulder with friends. Then comes the charge.
Right, and often both sides would advance simultaneously. There seems to have been this almost irresistible impulse to charge, even giving up good defensive ground sometimes.
Just wanting to get it over with, that one clear shot.
Possibly. Hanson calls it a powerful narcotic, that urge to close the distance.
But the charge itself wasn't neat and tidy.
Far from it. Messy, disorganized, kicking up huge clouds of dust. Imagine thousands of men running on dry ground, visibility gone.
And the noise.
Deafening. Clashing bronze armor and shields, horses snorting if cavalry were involved, men shouting war cries, commanders yelling orders lost in the din. Sensory overload.
People must have lost cohesion even before contact.
Absolutely. Tripping, stumbling, lines getting ragged, panic could set in early.
And then, the collision.
Hanson describes it as terrible, inhuman. Imagine two lines hitting each other, maybe at a combined speed of 10 mph.
The sound alone. Smashed shields, cracking spears.
And the sounds of men, groans, shrieks, and remember the depth of the phalanx. The guys in the back are literally pushing the guys in front.
So there's no backing out. You have to crash into the enemy.
You have no choice. Hanson really emphasizes this. It wasn't just a fight. It was this relentless mechanical process. The phalanx forces a result.
That shield shape, too, the concave design.
Yeah.
You said it offered a false sense of security.
Yeah, making men maybe more willing to collide rather than flinch away.
Yeah.
In that chaos, rationality is gone. Inhibitions dulled by drink, by adrenaline, by noise. Men are just part of this struggling mass.
So after that initial crash, what does the fighting look like?
It degenerates quickly, spears break, then it's sword work, vicious close-in stuff.
And even closer.
Even closer, bare hands, grabbing beards, hair, helmets, using broken spear shafts as clubs. Remember the Spartans at Thermopylae?
Fighting with hands and teeth when their weapons were gone.
Exactly. At this point, individual skill matters less than just staying on your feet, holding your position.
Because of the push from behind, the athismos espedon.
The push of shields, it becomes this grinding, shoving mat, a wall of men pushing against another wall.
Yeah.
And the casualties from that alone?
Horrifying. Trampling,
Yeah.
suffocation.
Yes. Men going down and just being crushed by the press. Bodies piling up. Hanson mentions descriptions where corpses remain standing, packed so tightly it's a gruesome image.
Like a human meat grinder.
That's a good way to put it. And amidst all this, utter confusion.
Identifying friend from foe must have been hard. No uniforms.
Just shield devices, maybe helmet crests, quickly obscured by dust and blood. Friendly fire incidents must have occurred.
And the psychological impact. Shell shock.
Had to be common. Battle fatigue, shock, men losing their senses. Hanson cites the story of Epizelos at Marathon.
The man who went blind after seeing a giant enemy hoplite kill the man beside him, even though no one else saw the giant.
Precisely. Hallucinations, dissociation. It's face-to-face killing. Exhausting physically and mentally. Covered in sweat, dust, blood, gore.
It sounds absolutely nightmarish.
It does. And then the aftermath. The killing fields.
What do they look like?
Eerily silent, usually. Where the main collision happened, bodies would be piled high, mostly with wounds to the front, Hanson notes. They died facing the enemy.
But if there was a rout?
Then bodies are scattered across the field, often with wounds in the back. Panic flight, anonymous slaughter.
Identifying the dead must have been difficult.
Extremely. Facial wounds, mutilation, a grim task. And for the wounded, survival chances were poor.
Beyond the initial injury.
Infection was almost inevitable. Tetanus, gas gangrene, unsterilized weapons, soil contamination, limited medical knowledge. It was bleak.
So Hanson draws a line between battle and war for the Greeks.
He does. The actual time spent in that face-to-face collision, the battle, was probably tiny over a soldier's lifetime, minutes, maybe hours total.
But that brief, brutal experience became the defining image.
Absolutely. An obsessive image. But crucially, Hanson argues the Greeks themselves didn't romanticize it the way later culture sometimes did.
They saw it as practical, economical.
In a brutal way, yes. A concentrated horror aimed at a few, perhaps, to spare the many from prolonged conflict. A quick, grim resolution.
So the enduring legacy for Hanson is that frank appraisal.
Exactly. That the image of war shouldn't be heroic charges, but falling bodies, gaping wounds, that predictable, terrifying death verdict the hoplite faced again and again.
So bringing this all together, what does this mean for us today? Hanson's deep dive, it really challenges those romantic notions of ancient battles.
It forces us to see the brutal reality. And what's fascinating is how this seemingly, well, primitive tactic, the phalanx, was actually this carefully designed system.
Designed for swift, decisive conflict, and deeply tied to their society, their politics.
Absolutely, which raises a big question for our time, doesn't it? We live in an age of complex, often indirect conflicts. Decisive battles are rare.
So what can we really learn from a way of war that prioritized that brutal face-to-face resolution?
And maybe more importantly, what are the risks, the unintended consequences if we try to apply those ancient lessons or maybe misapply them in today's world? It's something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Join us next time for another deep dive.